From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Thursday, July 17th, and here are today's headlines. The town of Londonderry will vote on whether to move forward with increased restrictions on short-term rentals during a special meeting on Saturday. The town board approved new rules for short-term rentals that supporters said would help expand housing availability for full-time residents. But opponents like Jessica Cetera gathered petition signatures to call for a town meeting vote. She owns a rental property in town.
You know, the housing crisis is not going to be fixed by banning short-term rentals. It's not going to make homes more affordable.
Londonderry passed an ordinance last year that requires short-term rental owners to register and pay an annual fee. The new rules would limit the number of nights that owners who don't live in town can rent their property and put a one-year waiting period in place before a newly purchased property can become a short-term rental. Landmark College in Putney celebrates its 40th anniversary this year. The college is designed for students who learn differently, like those with dyslexia, autism, or ADHD. Jim DeLugos is Landmark's fifth president, and he was appointed this spring. DeLugos talked about plans for the anniversary yesterday on Vermont Edition.
In September, we'll have a big celebration on campus, inviting many people back who've been part of Landmark's story to tell that story, celebrating the past and looking toward the future as we sort of recognize where we are today is going to be, for us at Landmark, an exciting part of the coming year.
Landmark was founded in 1985 with the help of Peter Shumlin. He has dyslexia and would go on to be the governor of Vermont. For the second year in a row, a record amount of unclaimed money was refunded to Vermonters. The Unclaimed Property Division of the Vermont State Treasurer's Office announced Tuesday that $9.9 million in unclaimed property was returned in fiscal year 2025. The office processed nearly 32,000 individual claims. That's up from just over 19,000 claims last year. Unclaimed property, like uncashed checks or forgotten security deposits, is reported and turned over to the state by financial institutions or other entities. Vermonters can learn more about unclaimed property at missingmoney.com. And in New Hampshire, several dozen people gathered at the Statehouse earlier this week for Farmers' Day of Action. Their goal was to call for more local support for farmers dealing with cuts to federal farming grants. Julie Davidson is a member of the Northeast Organic Farming Association, which put on the event, and she said there's a need for more robust state policies to support local farmers.
We want access to healthy, affordable food. We want to support local businesses and keep money in our communities. We want farmers to be able to make a living while caring for the land. And we want policies based on evidence, not ideology.
Farmers at the event talked about challenges they faced from terminated USDA grants and reduced funding to local food banks and technical assistance programs. Farmers also asked New Hampshire to implement local food preference laws for schools, hospitals, and correctional facilities. Coming up, even though hundreds of people whose homes were damaged or destroyed by flooding the past couple of years have applied for FEMA buyouts, not very many have actually received the money. Vermont Public's Carly Berlin has the latest on why that process may get tougher still. That's after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from Alpine Telehealth, offering telepsychiatry solutions for Vermont hospital, community mental health, and primary care. Physician-owned and operated since 2018. Learn more at alpinetelehealth.com.
Hundreds of Vermont homeowners have applied for buyouts after the historic floods of 2023 and 2024. So far, though, only a few have actually gotten the money. And for some, new obstacles from the federal government have added uncertainty. Reporter Carly Berlin has the story.
The house where Jenny McKenzie lived for over 2 decades is boarded up. The Northeast Kingdom home sits between a narrow gravel road and the South Peachum Brook. And last summer, that brook ripped through the house. McKenzie hasn't lived here since. But on a hot July morning, nearly a year after the flood, she came back to salvage some of her old garden.
This was kind of a nice bearded iris plant. It was, looks like there's a little bit left of it. I'm going to start over on strawberries.
Last summer's flood wasn't the first here. After Tropical Storm Irene in 2011, the McKenzies sunk tens of thousands of dollars into repairing the house, and Jenny replanted her garden, only to be flooded again. This time around, the Federal Emergency Management Agency has approved them for a buyout. But as far as McKenzie knows, the day the feds will pay for this place and knock it down, that's still far in the future.
The buyout's happening a lot later than I thought. Like, it's not going to, this isn't going to happen till August of 26. So I guess I get another summer to come dig things out.
After historic flooding inundated Vermont 2 years in a row, hundreds of property owners have applied for buyouts to try and get compensated for homes and businesses they likely wouldn't be able to sell. State officials are currently overseeing about 260 applications for buyouts from FEMA. And so far, only 8 property owners have actually gotten the money. No demolitions have happened yet.
It feels like a very low number 2 years out.
That's Stephanie Smith, the state hazard mitigation officer for Vermont Emergency Management. Even on a good day, FEMA's buyout process is notoriously slow. But soon after President Trump took office, roadblocks started coming. First, projects that Smith expected FEMA to greenlight fairly quickly sat idle for months. Then, the Trump administration began quietly changing its rules for which buyouts it will approve, raising the bar on which FEMA projects it sees as cost-effective, Smith said.
We were like, okay, here's a giant brick wall. Deep breath, what do we do?
FEMA declined an interview request for this story and did not answer our detailed questions. But a spokesperson said in an email that the Trump administration is monitoring the approval of hazard mitigation funding to states and working with them to draw down balances and promote resilience. When Vermont officials learned about the rule change, they scrambled to rework all the applications they were getting ready to send to FEMA, according to Smith.
We don't want to have to tell people that they're not going to get buyouts. We told them they were going to get buyouts.
For now, all those applications are still moving forward, Smith said. But she doesn't feel relieved. For anyone still waiting on FEMA approval, an already lengthy process has slowed down. Any old applications that need tweaking will need to comply with different rules. And given President Trump's calls to eliminate FEMA, everything just seems precarious.
It feels like we're on the edge of a knife a little bit and toggling and just trying to keep everything balanced.
There are a lot of Vermonters caught in that balance, waiting for their buyout to finally come. Some are bunking up with friends, effectively homeless. Others are renting apartments and wondering if the payout they get will be enough to buy another home here as prices rise. Many are worried about what the future of FEMA means for them.
We're well aware of how much more difficult things could be for our family right now.
Jenny McKenzie knows she's relatively fortunate. Friends crowdsourced enough money for her family to pay off their loans on the old house and put a down payment on a new one. Still, for McKenzie and her husband, who are both teachers, the new house is a huge financial stretch.
So it was a really, really big risk for us to move there. The buyout is completely necessary in order to refinance to get our mortgage to a level around where this one was.
Mackenzie flipped open the trunk of her car and filled it with daffodil bulbs and irises. She took off down the gravel road. It was time to start planting at her new home. For Vermont Public, I'm Carly Berlin.
That was Report for AmeriCorps member Carly Berlin. Carly covers housing and infrastructure for VT Digger and Vermont Public. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Howard Weiss-Tisman, Michaela Lafrac, Jen Jarecki, and the New England News Collaborative. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.